for joining me again with Breaking the Silence Together podcast. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Jeannie Perez, and I'm the founder of You're Not Alone. And it's an organization that supports mental illness and drug and addiction, or any type of addiction. And the way that we do that is we support them by giving all free services, providing professional services from therapists, counselors, advocates, to be able to assign the advocates to the individuals so they can join them in their journey wherever they're at, to be able to get them the help that they need. And with that being said, we also have digital products, we have ebooks, we have books, we have resources, anything that any individual dealing either with mental illness or an addiction needs to get started on healing or recovery, we have it. And even after recovery and healing, we still have tools and resources available to keep them on track, keep them on their journey so they can continue to live a healthy life while they're healing and after recovery. With that being said, I want to say thank you again to everyone that's joining me and supporting our organization. Today's topic, it's a little bit of what I've been talking about for the last, I think it's about maybe 3 days now. I've talked about the inner child. I've talked about silence trauma, body trauma, somatic trauma. So what I'm going to talk about today kind of entails with all 3 or 4 of those problems that we have when it comes to anxiety, depression, isolation, the inner child, somatic trauma. And our topic is the pressure to forgive when healing becomes another form of silence. And the reason why I decided to put that topic, the title, in that way is because I wanted to make sure that I was putting a little bit of everything of what this statement really means. Because we're going to talk about how some of us are pressured into forgiving. And then I put, when healing, because some of us try to forget, and we start putting our brains and our minds into this healing process. And then we're pressured to forgive. And it's almost like we're back into silence. We're back into silencing our trauma, our situation, our problem of, what we're storing every day, what we're filling our brains with, that's putting us in these isolation modes, these survival modes. And the reason why I said, well, let me put this in my way, because the way that I put this information together when I was talking to someone, they gave me so much information to share today. And I said, well, let me try to put a little bit of everything into the title so that anyone that's hearing me, maybe just one of these words are going to really resonate with them, and they're going to say, like, wait a minute, yeah, that is what happened to me. Because sometimes, you can put something together for a topic or a title, if you want to call it, and it doesn't resonate with someone. But then when they hear what you're talking about, and they hear the breakdown of what you're saying that title is about, and then they say, well, yeah, that's something I went through. Yeah, that's something that I know somebody's going through. But the title didn't resonate. So that's why I decided to put a little bit of everything and not overwhelm the title, but try to put a little bit of everything into the title. So hopefully, just by someone hearing the title, is pausing them to listen so that maybe they can use these tools and resources, or just try to put things together to help them out with the situation, if they were in this situation, or if they're in this situation now. So, I want to make sure that I share everything I put together, because I just think it's so much, it's a lot of information, but it's good information. And I wish I had more time where I could really just put everything out there that it was put together for me on behalf of this topic. The person that put this together for me was something that her sister went through. And she just thought it was just so important. Like she said, I really think this is something that you can really share. It's something that I see my sister go through, and I'm sure there's many more people that are dealing with the same situation. And just get the message out to them that they're not alone on this. So I want to start out by saying, we're unpacking something that many trauma survivors, again, many trauma survivors, those in addiction recovery, and also the ones that are carrying around their inner child, have been made to carry their emotions, their isolation, their situations, their trauma in silence, because they were forced, they were pressured into this forgiveness mode. They were pressured to forgive the trauma, excuse me, that was brought onto them. They were told, it's okay. I mean, you're doing okay now. Let it go. Or, if you stay bitter, you can't heal. Or, just let it go. It happened a long time ago. You need to move on with your life. And I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with those couple of quotes that I said, because I've heard it many times. I've heard people tell other people that many times. And I'm sure that someone listening to me has heard it also, whether it was to them directly or to someone else around them. And in those little phrases, you're telling someone to just forget about or just brush off what they're feeling, their pain. And it's not really that you're telling them to brush it off and it's not going to help them heal, because it's not. It's not going to let them heal in a healthy way. Because you're brushing off what's real. What's real to you, your pain, your trauma, that you might have still been going through the same trauma or dealing with the pain on a daily basis when you were told to forgive or let it go. They didn't mean it. They didn't know what they were doing. That is just words from other people being selfish, because they're not putting you first. They're not putting your healing first, your pain first. You were being into this pressure and, into this myth that really was not true. Because how are we supposed to heal if within us we're still in a rage? How can we heal healthy if we didn't even get to process what happened to us? We weren't even able to talk about it. We weren't able to cry about it. How? That's not healthy. You were told to silence all this to make someone else comfortable. You were told to forget your pain and deal with it in silence. Don't bring it up anymore. Don't talk about it anymore, so that someone else, the person that did this to you, the trauma that brought this trauma onto you, maybe the people around you, so that they can be comfortable, but then what was going on with you within yourself. They didn't think that your pain mattered, because they told you to silence it by telling you to forgive something that you didn't even process. And I get it. Just talking with so many people and, dealing with my clients, some being raised in dysfunctional homes, recovery environments. We're just taught to forgive instead of feeling, and I get it. And I get it, because like I said, I've dealt with people for years, that were, told to skip the rage, skip the grief. And to be honest, if you really think about it, skip the truth. Because what happened to you is real, but by forcing you into this forgiveness, didn't matter. Brush it, throw it up underneath the carpet, you know. And it's really, really damaging to a lot of people. That type of silence, that type of trauma that they had to just silence it, you know. They couldn't even process that trauma that they were dealing with, that pain, because they were told, you know, a bunch of myths, you know, like the person didn't know what they were doing, or just forgive them. You have to forgive to be able to deal with, you know, to be able to function. You have to forgive so that you can heal. You know, it's the past, just move on. But what they really didn't know, that by pressuring you to forgive and not letting you process your feelings, and you were just doing all this again in silence. Because that's what it really was just a silence. You were just told to shut up, you know, in a silence, in a different manner, you know. And by you being silenced and being forced into this forgiveness mode, even though you couldn't even process it, just put you deeper and deeper into your trauma, put you deeper and deeper into your depression, your anxiety, into an addiction. I'm not sure, because like I said, this does a lot of different things, a lot of different damages to individuals. We're all different. You know, some of us might go into a deep hole with depression, anxiety. Some might go into an addiction. You know, a lot of people think that because they tell you to forgive and you stay silent, and you just start keeping that in because you already know nobody wants to hear it. They're already telling you to forgive the person, or forgive, you know, what happened. Forget it, it's the past. So you don't bring it up anymore. And you just start dealing with this within yourself the best way that you can. And it just takes you under because you don't have no one to talk about. You can't bring it up anymore. You know. And it becomes a little bit of a harder process when your, you know, loved ones or the people that you're around are constantly telling you to forget something that you're trying to talk about because it's so painful. You're trying to get their attention so they can help you, but they're telling you, you know, forget about it, pass it, you know, forget it, it's past. They didn't know, you know, just giving you all these negative things that you don't want to hear. You're looking for something positive. You're looking for some type of help, some kind of support, but you're not getting it. So that's just putting you deeper and deeper into your isolation, deeper and deeper into your depression, your anxiety, your addiction. Because now you feel as though you have no support. You have no one you can go to. No one. They're all telling you they don't want to hear it. Just forget about it. You know, or if you bring something up, they brush it off with something else. So you've told yourself, I'm not talking about that no more. They're not listening to me, or maybe they don't even believe me. You know, so that puts you in, and you already doubting stuff. You know, you already not trusting yourself anymore. And by not having no support, and everyone almost, it feels like they're all against you, what are you going to think? You're going to think, no one's coming to save me. I got to deal with this the best that I can within my own body. You know, it's almost like telling you, you know, dismiss your own pain, dismiss your own emotions, you know, dismiss yourself. Because now you can't even feel pain. Now you can't even talk, you know, you can't even process pain. You know? And it's really hard. And that's why I thought when this individual brought this up to me, and they were telling me about what was going on, in, you know, at their home with their sister, and she was telling me how everything winded up, and, you know, they were only a year and a half apart, so they, you know, they used to talk a lot. They were kind of tight. They were kind of close. They did a lot of things together. And her sister, you know, would open up to her, but, you know, they were both young at the time, you know, so all she really did was just really supported her sister by just always being there with her. You know, if her sister went and did something, she went with her sister. But it was hard. They couldn't get an adult to really give this, you know, her sister the support that she needed, you know. just a little bit of care or love. That's really what she needed. Someone to really believe what she was saying. And she didn't get that in her own home, which was very scary to them because they didn't know what to expect day in or day out, what could have happened to them without really having support that they needed from in their own home. And for her, that's where the inner child started. That's why I said a lot of people have these suppressed emotional trauma that at a young age we're told to silence it. You're not to talk about that happened already, or we're not doing that. It's not going to happen. We're not going to talk about it no more. It's hard. It's hard for them. It really is. It really is. And if you're dealing with this and you're listening to my podcast, or you know someone that might be going through this right now, but you're not sure because they're not being open up to you, but you think that these are some red flags that you're seeing within them, or maybe things that you've heard from them, little things, but they haven't told you the whole thing. Just let them know that it's real, and they're not out there, or you're not out there alone on this. This has happened to many, many people where they were brought up like that, where it's silence. You don't talk about that. And you live like this for so many years, and then when you become an adult and you're open and you're ready to open up about it, by that time your mind has processed so many different negativity, so many different things in your past, that you've done a lot of damage to yourself. Whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, you've done a lot of damage to yourself because you've been carrying this pressure, forgiveness for so long. Pressure, forgiveness, because you have never ever been able to process that pain yourself. And by the time, you become an adult, a lot of the damage has been done. And we've done it to ourselves because that's the only way that we've been able to cope with stuff. That's the only way we knew how to survive. And, we try to process it as we get older. And we try to pause a little bit and try to process it in a different way as we get older, because we no longer have to be pressured to forgive because we're becoming an adult. But because we've lived in that model of life for so many years, we were brought up in that model of life where you're not going to talk about it, that's not something that we do here. That even when you become an adult, you're still trying to figure out how can you talk about it, how can I do this, like you're still trying to figure out within yourself how can you make that change, because that pain is still there, that trauma is still in your mind, you live it, you breathe it. Little things that might happen to you throughout the day might just spark up something that you might remember. You might start crying, you might smell something that might trigger a memory. So you still live in it because you haven't been able to process it. And as you become an adult, even though you're an adult and you can do whatever you want, you no longer, maybe you don't live in that household, maybe you're no longer around the person who's silencing you, but you still don't know how to move without it. You don't know how to move yet to be able to process that pain, to talk about it, to bring it out, let people in so that you can start healing. And that's where the process of scanning ourselves, coming in tune with ourselves, and like I always say, talking to ourselves, because we need to learn and we need to figure out how can I heal from this pain that I've lived all my life, that I was silenced from. I was told I was supposed to forgive, but how was I, I never forgot. Never forgot, and the pain never went nowhere, it just stood stuck. You have to ask yourself, how can I heal from this? What steps do I need to make now that I'm an adult? Or if you're, if you know someone that's dealing with this, just helping them find that process within them. Find that security where they can trust themselves again, to where they can say, okay, I no longer have to be silenced. I never had to forgive anyone, because you don't. You don't have to forgive no one. They never even took actions of what they done to you. They never even acknowledged that. You don't owe them any forgiveness. For what? They never even acknowledged what happened. They never acknowledged that you were a person that had feelings just like them. A person that emotions, that they could feel pain. They never acknowledged that, because they silenced you. So you don't owe anyone any forgiveness. And I know a lot of people always feel as though they have to forgive somebody to move on. But the truth is, if you're saying that spiritually, because maybe now you're being spiritual about stuff, but we need to realize that we also need that spiritual lift. Okay, so if we forgive them, are we really healing within ourselves, within our spirit? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves. Now, if you feel as though that you've forgiven somebody and you feel like you're healing, okay, maybe that works for you. But anyone out there that feels as though they forgave somebody for something, for a trauma that was brought onto them, but they still feeling the pain, they don't feel as though they ever was able to get away from that pain. That's still living within them. They don't deserve the forgiveness from you. And you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to be silenced anymore. You need to now get in tune with yourself. Question yourself, what is healing to you? How can you go about healing yourself now, so you no longer have to carry this pain around with you? You no longer have to carry this trauma with you, this weight, that you got to keep silencing yourself from what really happened to you in your life. You got to keep covering it up. You have to figure out, and the way you're going to figure that out is talking to yourself and finding what is healing to you. And then get the help that you need. You definitely need to no longer be silent. You do need to talk to someone now. And that's going to help you out. Because now someone is going to listen to you, and you're being seen, you're going to be heard on something that you tried years ago to be heard on. Now it's your turn. Now it's your time. And if it's anyone that's listening and they're not the person that went through this trauma or this silencing forgiveness, but someone that is dealing with this, maybe they're carrying the inner child around with them, they're dealing with a weight that they're, is taking them down day by day, years and years, but they're still dealing with this. Give them the support that they need. Let them talk it out to you. Let them scream it out. Help them get the help that they need. So now they can be heard. Now they can be seen on something that they've been trying to talk about for years. A pain that they've been trying to bring out within them for years. Because this is real. This is real pain. This is real trauma. These are real things that a lot of us carry. We were brought up like that. We were children, we didn't know any better. So even though we were crying within us, we were carrying so much pain, we dealt with pain within our body day in and day out. We didn't know how to get rid of it. We were kids, we were children, we were these adults, we were looking up to them. We couldn't do nothing but just listen to what they were telling us to do. Even though we were crying within ourselves, we were just falling apart. It's really hard for a lot of people, and I get it. No one really knows what anybody goes through. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, no one knows. And that's really the scary part, because as children, so many children are carrying around so much. And it's never seen, it's never heard. And then when they become adults and their actions start speaking not the way that others want to see it happen, they start getting into these deep mental illnesses. They start getting into these really bad addictions. And people are quick to talk about them. People are quick to make them feel less. But where were you when this person was a child and this person needed your help and you would tell them, you would silence them out? That's what really the people that I feel as though talk about others, make others feel less because they have a mental illness or an addiction. And they be your own family, they be your sister, your brother, your aunt, your grandma, your mom, your dad. But they were the ones that were there when you were being silent and did nothing for you. But now as you get older and your actions are, you're acting out. Because now you feel as though you're an adult and now your mind is everywhere. You're doing what you need to do to cope with this pain. But it's not what life, what other people call what we're supposed to do in life. And I'm here to tell you that they don't matter. The people that make you feel less, the people that want to talk about you, they want to make you feel like you're trash, or, stay away from us, we don't want you around, or, you're a bum. They don't matter. If anything, they're the ones that are worth nothing because they lived with you throughout all this pain that you were going through as a child and did nothing for you. So why should you even care what they're thinking right now? They don't matter. And that's what I want you to know. Just start showing up for yourself. Talk to yourself. Figure out how you can start healing. Figure out which way you want to go to get the support that you need. Talk to someone close to you now as an adult, someone that you trust, someone that you feel safe with, and put something together so that you can start healing, whether it's going to someone in community base, calling someone professional, or maybe going together with someone that's in your life now that you feel safe with, going somewhere to get help for yourself. But you definitely need to make that first step and show up for yourself and get the help that you've been trying to get for so many years, and talk it out, because now you're going to be seen, now you're going to be heard. I know you've been crying on this for years, you've been in so much pain, and you've been dying for someone to listen. Now they can listen. Now they can't tell you to forgive or it was in the past, because you're an adult. Now you're going to be able to live life at your own terms. Live life how you want to live it, when you want to live it, how you want to do it. Do things when you want to do it. And affiliate and associate yourself with people that you want to deal with, not because you had to. And that's all part of healing. That's all part of recovery. Some of us have to just really let go of people that was in our past, people that are with us now, but they're no good for us. Sometimes in recovery and healing, we have to let go of that. We have to let go of those people. We have to let go of those, places that we were going to, or things that we're doing. When healing comes into our journey or recovery, sometimes it comes with changes that we don't understand, or changes we don't know or feel safe at that moment doing, because you're so used to being this other person, But I'm telling you right now, if you're healing, or you're about to start a healing recovery, just follow your heart. Follow what your body is telling you. Follow what your gut is telling you, and follow the plan that's being put in place for you. Because changes are good. And if we don't try something, we'll never know. And anything that has to do with your well-being, it's going to always be something good. So you should try it out. I know sometimes we're scared because we live life so long in silence, that when we start opening up and letting people into our life across, being able to come across those boundaries, we start getting scared and doubting stuff. Thinking like, oh, maybe this ain't right. Nah, I don't think I'm going to do this. Don't give in to those feelings. Do it. Do it. Because silencing is not going to help you. Keeping this inside is not going to help you. trying to forget it without getting the proper help is not going to help you. Trying to recover from an addiction on your own is not going to help you. Because you might be okay for a little bit, but then you might fall back into the triggers, back into your emotion, back into that thought, because you need something structured. You know, you need a plan, structure plan. You need a community support that's structured. You need a team that's going to help you out every time you have these negative thoughts or these doubts in your mind. It's going to push you along and walk along with you on this journey so that you can stay straight on this journey and you can do things in a healthy way. With that being said, you know, a lot of us that don't have the support, or we really can't say that we have a community that stands by us because we don't really interact with our community. We might not have any loved ones, any family. We might be on our own. You know, you're never alone. You're never alone. You're really not. Because you just have to really pause with yourself and think on things, what's going on in your life at this moment, you know. Because there's got to be someone, even if it's just one person, one place, that'll make that you feel safe at. You feel comfortable. Whatever that one place is or that one person is, start out there. Start out there. And then put everything else that's in your process to get the help that you need a little bit every day into your life. But definitely start out where you feel safe at, so that you can go ahead and get the help that you want or the recovery that you need. You know, this is something that's going on every day. You're not alone. With people having to live a lifetime with this silence, carry this silence around. And it's hard, and I get it. And sometimes they'll say, you know, they live like it's a lifetime. Why change now? What's going to make a change? And it's like I always say, it's never too late to get help. It really isn't. It's never too late. And it's never too early. It's when you're ready. That's when the right time is. Whether it's talking to someone or getting, you know, the help for your mental illness or getting the help for an addiction. The time is right when you're ready. That's the right time. Not when anyone else is ready or anyone tells you to do it. It's when you're ready. Because that's when the healing is going to be a healthy healing. You know, anyone that knows me knows that I'm always looking for another team member, another beautiful soul that's trying to help like myself with mental illness and addiction. Anyone that wants to volunteer their time to help the next, you know, person, the next individual that's struggling with mental illness, from hopefully saving them from taking their life or over-medicating themselves, or help, you know, someone that's on some type of drug or alcohol, maybe it is. So many different addictions, just like there's so many different illnesses. You know, just help the next person that's addicted to something from losing their life to it. Because every second of the day we are losing beautiful souls to mental illness. Every second of the day we're losing beautiful souls to an addiction. And those numbers that don't go down, and they never will. Because this is something that's happening worldwide by the second. And every day you look at those numbers, there's not just that we're losing souls to an addiction or a mental illness, but every day there's another person that's been diagnosed with a mental illness. Every second there's been another person diagnosed with some kind of mental illness. Every second of the day another person has been brought on to an addiction. So these numbers just continue to rise, in the growth and in the loss of both causes. And no matter how big of a team that we have, the need is so large that it's never enough. And it's never going to be enough, and I get it. But at least I know that I'm trying every day, I'm pushing every day, and I'm helping everyone that I can. I don't care where you're at in the world, where you're sitting at. We will help you, we will support you. My services, whether they're professional services down to just going on my site and maybe downloading something, everything that I provide is accessible worldwide. So it doesn't matter where you're sitting at. Our services, our tools, and our resources, everything is available to you worldwide, free. And that's why I said, if you're out there, no matter where you're at in the world, if you want to volunteer with us, if you're a licensed professional therapist, if you're a licensed counselor, if you just want to be an advocate, reach out to us. Let's make this happen. Let's save that next person together. It's not about us, it's about them. I don't show up for anybody else but them. Maybe some people will take that wrong. I don't know, but I'm just raw and I'm just honest. Every day, my organization is here to help them, not for anything else. I show up here on this podcast and I talk to hundreds of professionals that are dealing, that have the same organization that I do, or just professionals that have the knowledge, more knowledge than, I can learn from, because knowledge is power. And no matter how many licenses, how many degrees I have, you never know enough. Never have enough knowledge. And the reason why I spend timeless hours talking to people worldwide to gain more knowledge, the reason why I continue my education, and I never stop my education, because you can never have enough, is because of them. Because I'm trying my best to do whatever it takes to make sure that whatever anyone needs, I have the proper place, the proper tools and resources and professionals put in place for them. I don't want to guess on nothing that no one needs. I don't want to guess on what someone needs to heal or recover. I want to make sure that everything's put in place for them the way that it's supposed to be. And the only way I can do that is by continuing my education, continuing my connections and my broader outlook on things with my knowledge, and just connecting with as many people as I can worldwide, because I want to make sure that I'm offering and I'm providing as much of everything that's needed worldwide. And I can't do that if I don't have the knowledge, if I don't have the proper education. Because I'm not just sitting here putting stuff together, writing something, closing a book, or reading something and down, and copy. No. My knowledge is backed up by my licenses, by my certificates, by my degrees, and by the lovely people, the beautiful people that are sharing with me their knowledge. And that's what it's about. It's not about, like I said, it's not about what I can do for myself. It's about what I need to do to help them, help others, the ones that are struggling with this mental illness, the ones that are struggling with this addiction. And if you feel the same way, just come on, let's connect. If you have information that I can share that you think that someone else can benefit from it, send them my way. It's not going to go to waste. If you think that maybe your community can use our services, let me know. I'll put something together so that you can do an event in your community. Or send you a package with a bunch of stuff, tools and resources for your community. That's what we're here for. But that being said, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been supporting me. Sorry, my throat is very dry today. Everyone that's been supporting me on this journey, that's really been showing me the love. And when I say love, I mean real love. You know, not that fake love where they say, oh yeah, I support you, or yeah, I'm going to do that, but then they never do it, they never show up. It don't matter, because it really don't matter to me. You know, but the ones that are really showing up for me, and like I said, it's not about me, but they showing up for my cause. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and you know who you are. And without you, I really couldn't do it. I really couldn't. And I just want to say thank you. And it's priceless. I can never repay you for it, but I say thank you. It really is from the bottom of my heart. Because what you're doing for me, you know, worldwide, and what you're pushing out for me, and you're showing up for my cause, is priceless. And I want to say thank you. I really do. And I want to end this with my statement. You know, please really listen to this statement, because I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. It's okay to not be okay, because it really is. But what's not okay is to think that yourself or your loved ones or your family, anyone, needs to struggle in the dark, alone, in silence, ever. Never again. Please get on my website, www.you'renotalone.online. Take advantage of our resources, our tools, our services. If you don't need them, send them over to someone that can. Share our stuff, repost our stuff, push our information out there. Because you never know who you're going to save. It could be someone, it could be the person sitting right there next to you right now. You don't even know it. Until then, please take care of yourself and your loved ones.